When you think about everything going on in the workplace, one of the things that I love to talk about are what are called foundational skill sets. And I don't think our school systems teach them very well. I want to share something with you. Yesterday, I was talking to a really good friend of mine at one of our client sites, Joe Stolpe, and his son, without disclosing, but he's gone through some life challenging circumstances. And I saw a video. Now, I live in Wisconsin, they live in Nebraska. And I was watching his son after a football game give an interview, and he was a senior. It was his last game. And according to his dad, he lives for football. And he's like, yeah, it was disappointing tonight, but the guys that we got behind us, they're going to be seniors next year. They're going to be awesome. And we've created this culture. And my God, this kid's 17, 18 years old. And I said to his dad last night, we were talking, I said, man, you must be so proud. What an amazing interview. Because in the moment, well, the refs were unfair. And Joe goes, no, we don't do that at our house. I go, Joe, that's culture. He goes, yeah, it is culture. I said, you've created a great culture for your kid to develop resilience and overcome adversity. He said, yeah, that's a great point. We had this great conversation. We don't teach that in our school systems. The byproduct of some things like sports and theater and music and whatever extracurricular activities, but we don't really teach resilience and change and the ability to adapt. Why do I bring all that up? AI's here and it is replacing jobs. And you have all these concepts out there. Now, I'll give you one fundamentally that I do agree with. I do think AI is going to replace jobs. I think what people have to get over is the embracement or the fighting of AI. You got to embrace it. It's here. And the reason being is if you can embrace it, people who can utilize AI will become more adaptable with their employment. They'll become more flexible in the eyes of the people making some really tough decisions. I'll give you another example. I had a conversation with a woman at a small company who was answered the phones, and she set appointments for the president. And it was a smaller organization, and I'm just sitting there going, this is so easy to implement with an AI agent. Now, that doesn't mean I'm inhumane or I'm a jerk for not wanting that person to maintain employment, but as a business owner, $50,000 a year with benefits or $5 a month, I would choose $5 a month. That's coming. I'm going to make a comment. I think employees today, for the most part, are going to have to reinvent themselves. They're going to have to reinvent themselves. So when I have people come to me and say, do you do anything with AI? I'm like, yeah, we have about 20 AI products in development. I've got about 5 or 6 completed. And our strategy is how do we make coaching easier for the leader? So we have a thing that builds coaching plans for leaders. I've got someone with a high D and DISC wants to become a future leader, doesn't work well. Here are the 4 areas. I can have a coaching plan done in about 3 seconds. Manually, about 4 to 6 hours. I'd be dumb not to use it. So what we have to do is think about some fundamental foundational skills. Change, being adaptable, flexible, learning, constant learning. Somebody said, and I saw a thought leader talking about if you want to really reinvent yourself, replace social media with learning AI. And I thought, well, that's an interesting concept. And I'm on YouTube. I'm learning AI every single day. I'm actually about to enroll in a course. And even though I'm building AI products with people, the fact of the matter is I'm not an AI expert. I think I'm using AI pretty well as it relates to our strategy and hopefully to the benefit of our customers. So what we have to do is really think about how do we get people to see this as an opportunity and not something that they want to avoid. Let me give you another example. I was at a financial organization and I was in a meeting with about 30 leaders, and each of the leaders represented territories. And somebody asked a question as a gentleman was in front of the room talking about spreadsheets. Now, this wasn't even AI, this was just automation. And she said, well, how long will it take us to fill out all these spreadsheets? The gentleman said about 3 hours a week. I'm looking around the room. I'm like, that's 90 hours a week. That's 360. Let's call it 400 times 12. We're almost at 5,000 hours. Why do I bring that up? I'm not a spreadsheet person, but they were using lookup, VLOOKUP, pivot tables. Everything he taught could have been automated. And someone in the room looked at me and said, what were you thinking when you were watching that presentation? Because I was there as a speaker afterwards. I wasn't there to observe this part of the presentation. I said, all of that should take 5 minutes. I've seen it. I don't know how to do it, but I've seen it. They go, what are you talking about? And this is an organization who says, we're not looking at AI. And I get it, because you're dealing with people's money. You got to be very careful. And the same thing with medicine. My wife is a doctor. AI's, they're not going to just throw AI at people's care right away until they're comfortable. And so I'm watching this, and the person who asked me that question, they go, are you serious? So I sent her the person who's the Excel expert who does all this automation work that I know. They're like, oh my gosh. And they're implementing it. They're literally going to save 5,000 hours. Let's put a $30 an hour value on that. That's $150,000 from some guy who teaches coaching who didn't even know how to do it. And that's how they're saving some money. And so what we have to do is think about not just driving the use of AI, but driving the mentality to embrace AI. What are your thoughts?